welcome to this week's episode of Couch Chats. This week I'm doing something a little bit different today. I would like to introduce you to the Remember When series. So anyone that has a story that they wish to be told and maybe they're a little bit scared to tell the story themselves and choose to remain anonymous, send it on in and I can tell your story on your behalf. So the first one to kick it off for this week is, I remember when. I remember my old house, family home I bought for my sons and I. The worst house in the best street kind of scenario. I remember when we had the most epic hailstorm and in that house, it made it look like it was snowing outside. We had no electricity for a week. The house was often cold and dark because it was surrounded by bush. It always had a kind of eeriness to it, a dampness, a coldness, a vibe. It always gave us a feeling like we were never quite alone. One of the things that happened often in this house is that we would hear tiny footsteps running from one end to the other. Usually close to midnight or not long after. And I wasn't the only one that heard this. My sons heard it too. My younger son's toys would suddenly start going off in the middle of the night, even the ones that I thought were no longer working. One night, I was alone in the house and something was calling me. So I sat down and connected myself to the spirit and asked it what it needed. What I got was that this spirit needed to be able to move on. So I sat down and I closed my eyes, connected and visualized. I visualized this spirit coming into my body, into my womb and moving through me so it could transition from one life to the next. I told the spirit that it could move through my body. I can't really put it into words, the whole process. It was more of an intuitive feeling. But I sat there and I called the spirit into me and allowed it to pass through me. Not long after, I got a really heavy period. So I thought that was the spirit finally being able to move on and be released. But the late night footsteps and the toy playing continued. A few months later, I met a man and quickly fell pregnant. The footsteps stopped. The late night toy playing stopped. And from the very first moment I met my baby girl, there was a familiarity, I can never say that word, and a bond that was indescribable. I knew from the very moment that I looked into her face that she was the spirit I called into my body. We were finally home, with each other, together, again at last.